Start recording. Yeah. So yes, I make you presenter, Akash. So you can just start from your end. You can
So,
share your screen.
where is the option to share the screen in WebEx?
It will be down your screen. I mean, of the window of the WebEx.
By the right where the camera option is there.
Yeah, yeah. It will
Stop
be there.
video.
It's
What is
It's
that?
by the right. It's by the right. Yeah,
More
next to that.
options. Connect to a video system. Copy meeting link. That's all it is showing to me.
you will not getting a sharing option.
I'm not able to see where it is. Is it under a menu or what?
Sir,
Acha,
can you
share
please make
share
me
content.
promote?
I found a menu option. Okay, okay, I found it. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Can you see?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. We can see your screen. Okay, yeah. It's visible. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yes, yes.
So, a warm welcome to
So
all the
yeah,
participants. Thank you to the
Akashdeep. So we
organizing
have a
community
time.
and biology. Yes, tell
We
me,
have a
biology.
time till 9:50. Akash,
Hmm.
we have a time till 9:50. So just plan your session likewise. And at the end, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, we will have the question answer. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, some disclaimer for all of you to watch who may have seen this already, and a brief profile about me. So, I've done my master's from Coventry University, UK, in electronic systems design. I presented an international paper at a innovation conference called TRIS Futures in Bergamo. And in my master's thesis, I used extended Kalman filter, and I use that for handling my own investments. Some of them are in the NSE, some of them are in the NYSE. And I also am a part of the Inflection Point Ventures as an angel investor. I keep coming across different desks, pitch desks from startups that are trying to raise funding, and I'm also invited as a subject matter expert to vet the technology stack from time to time. So this is a brief overview of the content. Um, so some things like idea to market to growth strategy. There's an entire 40-hour, 50-hour course on this, and if we start going into that, then we open ourselves to questions about whether the idea needs to be validated or not properly by other panelists, because there's a fixation in the mind of the entrepreneur that yes, this is my idea, it has to be best. Why should I take the inputs of older generation people? They don't know the newest technology. Oftentimes it can happen in the limited circle of friends and family sometimes, but there are experts who are older than you and who know more than you and who have seen similar kinds of technologies work or not work. So idea to market to growth strategy, I'm going to briefly say, and then I'm going to focus more on the other five aspects, as that's where the real challenges are also there. But in the idea to market to growth strategy, what happens for many people is that idea fixation reduces the inclination of the investor, entrepreneur, to take feedback from people. So investors are looking for self-willed people, because see, you need strong willpower to make your venture successful, no doubt about that. However, if your strong willpower makes you stubborn and intentionally blind, there is even a book called Willful Blindness, where investors find entrepreneurs being unwilling to take coaching from the market. So everybody is at the subject or is at the mercy of supply and demand. The supply for what you're offering as an entrepreneur is not picking up. It will be zero at start. Angel investors also know it will be zero at start. What we as a community are looking for is how quickly can you take lessons from the market cheaply. So that has to be embedded in your growth strategy, that how soon can I fail fast, cheap, and can I recover from those failures. So the idea of people going to homes and offering services like manicure, pedicure, in a company called Urban Clap was so good that they had managed to raise 1200 crores in a matter of few years. Up till 2019, everything seemed right. Otherwise, why would so many investors back it up? In 2020, the shock to their business model was so severe that they were having a hard time managing the people, because they need to have a certain caliber of people, background verified people whom they will send to people's houses. And when there is a lockdown, you cannot send people to other people's houses. Their task force, which they had taken so much pains in curating, training, and then if the task force is gone, then in 2021, how will they reservice the market? So that sustaining for that 18 months or 2 years from 2020 to 2021 was such a cash crunch causing issue for their business, because new investors became wary of this, because that time last year in March and after March, it was not clear how many months will it take to recover from the lockdown. So new investors were very shy, and then Urban Clap had to sell themselves to the Reliance Group for 1/10 of the investment that they had raised. So why I'm bringing this case study up, which is kind of like a warning to you guys, is that your idea to market might have been validated to the tune of 1200 crores in a span of 4 years, and then in the fifth year or sixth year, you might face something completely out of the blue. Whether or not you can pivot enough to manage the shock will decide whether you get a up round or a down round. Because when it is acquired by Reliance for 1/10 valuation, it simply means that you have managed to survive but not grow, and then the future is uncertain. How many years will it take to go back to that valuation that it had reached in 2019? So with that, I will conclude the points on idea to market to growth strategy. Now I'll strictly go to the second point. Now, what do you think is cheaper or riskier? Is it equity financing, debt financing, or grants? This question you need to understand and ask to yourself at every level when you're trying to raise money. Because venture funding, contrary to what people think as easy money, is very expensive money. It is the kind of money where you should imagine it like putting a part of your child up for auction. Because as a entrepreneur, you're supposed to be like a parent with your business. You're supposed to look at its needs and help it grow. At the same time, you need to let other people become parents, so you have to give up your rights. The more equity you uh, give up to raise subsequent rounds of funding, the less you are in charge. Best example that comes to mind is Steve Jobs was kicked out of his own company because his ideas were costing the company more and more revenue, and so the board decided, we don't need you as the decision maker now. Of course, he held certain amount of equity, and that helped him back to reclaim his position. When he saw the shares coming down, he funneled the profits from his Pixar studios to buy enough shares of Apple to be the main voice. But the question of being kicked out of decision making position wouldn't have arisen if he had not liquidated his shares. So that is the risk you have to face. Even though debt is not going to cost you the risk of directly losing ownership in your business, if you do not service the debt and you have to go to the insolvency courts, then also, like Gitanjali Gems and the whole Nirav Modi situation, you still might end up losing your business. So, what is it that is cheaper? What is it that is riskier at each level of your funding? You need to ask yourself this question. The grants, which will never service or fulfill the need of your company, are completely easier or less riskier or less, or even less cheaper in terms of emotional and intellectual involvement. However, it is simply not in your hands, because a grant is subject to approval from the grant giving body. It may be a university in America or a government in India or any other government that you are trying to help. So grants you cannot completely, you know, depend on to move your business forward. Then whose money will you depend on? Wait, there's such line. No. The best funding for a startup is always the customer's money. Keep that in mind. No matter which investor you go to raise money from, even if it is your parents and friends, the question in their mind is, how soon will you get to break even, and from there how soon will you get to profitability. Between 2010 and 2015 there was a weird phrase in our phase in our Indian economy also, which is copying the US economy, that is to keep funding businesses that are losing money. So then people started thinking, look, so much of you know uh, funding is raised to lose money, funding is raised to lose money, funding is raised to lose money, so angel investors must be a certain kind of idiots, they don't understand, so we can go and raise money and run away from them. And that is to some extent certain company whose name I intentionally won't tell you raised that money, and Ernst and Young was the people who did the due diligence. They raised 100 crores, and this is like about 2014 ki baat hai, and then they in a matter of months they were able to elude the investors, and even they ran away without actually doing the business. Since then, venture financing in India has become a kind of pseudo debt. So those of you who did not understand the difference in venture and debt so far, venture means giving equity and control of business for money which is not required to return in the classical sense. Debt is money that is required to be returned with the explicitly mentioned rate of interest. Otherwise, you still end up losing control of your business, and you may not be able to raise money ever again if you end up in the insolvency court. What is happening in India effectively after 2014 in a lot of cases is that venture capitalists and angel investors require you to mention the internal rate of return at which you will generate money for them, typically in the 9 to 11%, which means venture capital in India effectively currently is a hybrid, not like in America where you were able to raise money without worry and then you didn't have to pay it back. Even if you went bankrupt, your personal assets would not be attached. Nowadays, also in India, personal assets are usually not attached. If you raise money from a proper SEBI registered category 1 or category 3 alternate investment fund, which is what venture capitalists are designated as in India. However, if you raise venture financing from some high net worth individual, you might be trapped in a personal obligation to return the venture capital also. So you need to be able to really, thoroughly, in detail, with a magnifying lens, take your time and read through every single clause in the shareholders agreement and before that in the term sheet to understand what are you actually signing up for. Okay, so I'm going to move on. The purposes of debt that are available. Reading each title here will not serve you as much as you looking up whether or not you are an export oriented company, whether or not your business comes under the special schemes that are always changing from each financial year, that require or that are given emphasis by the government to grow. But these names, I want you to go look them up and see whether they are relevant to your business or not. Letter of credit is very hard to get now. Why? Because this letter of credit method was used by Nirav Modi, and he arm twisted Punjab National Bank into giving him new loans again and again, which he was not able to repay. So now don't try to get letter of credit. This much I can tell you upfront, unless you have a very strong cash flow record. The major cities to attract funding. This is a brief overview. Most of the major capitals in the country, there is some or the other angel investor sitting there. Okay. Financial capital being India's financial capital being Mumbai, you will find a lot of companies, almost all the angel investors that are in India to be having some or the other, either verification team or one of the decision makers in Mumbai or Pune and so on. Okay, so I'm going to move to the next slide. So it's not all doom and gloom in India. I gave you some, attention grabbing case studies that have gone sour and what are the pitfalls. But then I want you to look at the optimistic view also. Under the current Prime Minister Modi Saab, a lot of emphasis has been given to facilitate the influx of funds in India. and you can see that there has been a increase like 12 to 15% year on year on startup funding. So we have come a long way, from 1990s during the license Raj, when to open a Maruti in India, the Japanese had to find the the Hero group that was making cycles, and so on and so forth. So a lot of things have opened up. Now it is there are dedicated panels and offices across every single state to raise money, investments in their states. And unicorns, for those of you who are hearing the word for the first time, are companies that have had over $1 billion in their valuation. In some metrics in America, they are now calling it, with revenue they will assign the word unicorn. So this word is more or less attached to $1 billion. Okay, that is roughly around 7,500 crores, and it keeps changing as the foreign exchange fluctuates. And so there are 24 unicorns that are active as of 2019. So that your aspiration should be to be a unicorn, or at least keep your eyes open and expand your business as far as you can. Then only you can expect the angel investors and venture capitalists to continue to fund your growth. So funding received in 2019 alone was 4.4 billion. Number has shrunk in 2020, no doubt. So share of all startups leveraging deep tech has a 40% compounded annual growth rate since 2014. Particularly, this growth rate has even increased last year. Overall funding may have been less than 2019, but the compounding that startup companies in the area of cloud, AI, e-learning, remote telemedicine, medicine delivery, farm to consumer, these kinds of areas have boomed. Active institutional investors in 2018 have been up from 310 to 390 in 2019. So these are some other metrics. Look it up. So rounds of funding, getting into self-funding. So I have intentionally stopped putting ventures fundraising at round C. But there is no end to the number of rounds you could raise. If your business has that kind of potential, you going forward, you see a slide where there can be D, E, F. But remember, like I said earlier, the more rounds you go through, the company is growing, but your stake in that company is coming down, and the value of that small stake is also growing. So you have to balance it. Do you want to be the 100% owner of a 1 crore company, or do you want to be the 10% or 5% owner of a 1,000 crore company? And in the process, you may or may not be able to manage your company. Just look at how Flipkart, one of the Bansal brothers, has had to leave all positions in the company after the takeover by Walmart for $2 billion of capital infusion. And of course, there's a equity exchange in that as well. So without further ado, let's look at self-funding. So, funding ranges I mentioned here, you don't think these ranges are fixed. In the investing world, particularly for startups whose price is not yet discovered. Why people are investing in startups? Because the price is not clear. If it is not clear, there is scope for compounding exorbitantly. If something is so clear that this is the price of this today, how will you sell it at 100 times more in a year from now or 10 years from now? So price discovery is always ambiguous. So the ranges of investment finding in each level is also subject to your negotiation and your company's performance when you are trying to raise funds, and the overall macroeconomics. So self-funding, as the name suggests, it comes from yourself. You have to assess all your investment savings, open multiple accounts, and approach your friends and family. So, as a general thumb rule, if you don't invest a sizable amount, why should somebody else who doesn't know you trust you suddenly and then invest a larger amount? So, here self funding will give a clear report card of how resourceful are you, the entrepreneur. Resourcefulness is more important to an angel investor or venture capitalist than the resources currently with you. Resourcefulness is your ability to attract resources, not necessarily by buying them. It could be a agreement to offer services in the future, or do something that will service your customers in a way that others are not doing, such that customers line up with their money to take your offerings. So this is very important, self-funding. Seed capital. So now this seed capital, you know, it can come from some incubators, and this is used as a metric if you are trying to get early funding when your customer base is very small. Okay, seed capital will mandate the requirement of your, you must have at least done some kind of refinement in your offering. If your offering doesn't exist, very difficult to get seed capital. So you need to use your funds to make your website or your services online, functional, and have some feedback from the market. But then you use seed capital to further tune that offering and to increase the number of people that you can serve. And venture funding happens typically when your offering is creating a predictable, controllable, and scalable increase in the number of users. And you want to keep adding new kinds of users to your offering. If you can show that you're growing at a certain multiple or percentage in terms of acquiring the users that are important to your revenue generation, and then you want to have a new market added. So you were in Gujarat, you want to go from Gujarat to Guwahati or Gujarat to Goa. You want to increase your offerings in those cities. You want to create a supply chain network in those cities, or you want to create a you know marketing and promotion department in those cities that will address the needs in those cities, such that overall your business grows. Then comes the venture capital. So by this point you should have something that works, that people want. You may not be able to charge the entire profit margin that you are looking for, but you must be able to sustain. So you can look it up. These are rough ranges. So you will see that each series may not exactly give you the higher amounts, so 5 crore to 15 crore, and then the next round you might end up raising less money. But remember the case of the Urban Club company. After 1200 crores they had to sell it for 120 crores. So not necessary that each successive round VC will start from the prior round and give you more money than the prior round, unless your business, your venture merits that kind of appreciation. That is why in the series A itself, try to get the maximum money that you can for the percentage of equity that you are willing to dilute. And don't take all of the money in the first installment itself. Anyway, people will not give you that much, but always have your own mindset that okay, I have taken 40% more than I need. Let me just leave the 40% with the investor for now, for as long as I can drive the business up, and have your arrangement be such that if that 40% is needed, it will be wired to you within whatever shortest time frame that your venture capitalist is able to do that, so that you don't end up losing customers because of not having money to operate your business. So this is called as taking a staggered disbursement from the VC. Instead of taking the whole thing and then going for a down round, you might as well take chunks of it one after another. So like I said, category 1, category 3, and category 2, these are some of the categories in the under which alternate investment funds SEBI has put up. And this is all mainly depending on, are you keeping a minimum 10-year period. So this is for people like me who are looking to invest in these funds, or even some of you might be having family members, elders, who want to try a different asset class instead of just sticking to mutual funds, and you might look at alternate investment funds. This is your gateway to be an investor in unlisted businesses. So early stage life cycle. So like I said, early stage starts with zero revenue. So that's what this image is telling you. And the growth in the revenues need not coincide with the growth in the earnings. This is what I was telling them. Why some businesses were getting funding instead of even though they were not profitable, is because they were having increase in revenues, increase in people willing to transact. There's a very difficult thing to estimate what is the value of a brand just by putting that one tick logo or that D&G cost of goods suddenly skyrockets. 400 rupees shoe sells for 4,000 just because of that brand. Customers willing to transact at that price point. So if your revenues can be increased and if you can have your customers keep coming back to you to transact with you, that can be a substitute for your earnings up to a point. After a while, you will have to monetize, like our great Mukesh Ambani ji has proved by launching Jio that he was willing to burn money, will keep being in losses to keep increasing the number of transacting customers. Now, initially in Jio, the transaction was just go buy the SIM card. In some cases, maybe that also, if you can manage it, you could get it for free. That and all we'll discuss later. But the question is that if you have almost like 40 or 50% of the country's population willing to buy your SIM cards, and then have at least some kind of packages done to increase the limit of data, so that shows that you have transacting customers. You may be spending your money to service that customer. Geo was in loss for a long time until we got habituated to unlimited data. And in the process, other companies that could not offer the same kind of bandwidth and data packages started to lose customers at an exponential rate. So the total number of customers, competitors that could reduce the number of Geo's customers was reduced. Competition ही खत्म हो जा रहा है. So when the competition is reduced, then you start having a bigger pool. So revenues even started exponentially increasing for Geo, even though the cost to service also started increasing. So that's how you can see there are some two formulas. Geo is a unlisted business, one of the greatest successes recently. And equity value today is equal to equity value at the end of the forecast horizon, divided by n divided by 1 plus target rate of return raised to n, and proportion of equity to new capital provider is equal to new capital provided divided by post money valuation. Here this is another way to look at this approach. This is taken from Ashwath Damodaran, professor of New York University Stern Business School. He is considered as a big expert in valuation, listed, unlisted. And just for example sake, you can look it up this Medium article also. Okay. So this is how a venture capitalist will quickly do a estimate calculation on how much you should be valued as of now before he infuses his capital. Okay. So venture capitalists have to look at a lot of overheads. They need to return the money to the investor. So see, I said earlier, if you want to enter the world of unlisted companies, go through a alternate investment fund. So what is that telling? That the fund manager in a AIF or angel investment company or venture capital company is raising money from people like me and people like you also, those of you who choose to go there. So then they have to return our money at a rate, and then they need to subtract the costs of companies that go bankrupt. A lot of companies will go bankrupt. That is the reality of unlisted investing. So that is the case. So unlisted. So if the anticipated exit is $100 million, it is all backward calculation. Okay, and the target return on investment is 20 times. Then the valuation after investment should reach at least around $5 million. And to get that $5 million, if the if the valuation is completely fused by invested money, then it's not really a business that is sustaining itself. So some of the valuation has to be derived from the business itself, and the amount invested is usually less than 20%. So here 20% is considered, that is about $1 million. And so the pre-money valuation before adjusting for dilution is about $4 million. Now, out of this $4 million, typically in most economies, including India, 20 to 30% is expected as dilution, is expected by the VC to be given to them. So then what is the value of the remaining shares? So 70% of 4 million. So that is about 2.8 million pre-money valuation after adjusting for dilution. You can read this slide later also in detail. Okay. This is an example of funding circle, how they reached $1 billion. So in angel round they raised $1 million. That is about 7.5 crore. And by doing the operations in their business, online marketplace for small businesses, loan lenders and seekers and so on. So based out of London, UK, founded in 2010. So in a year they were able to raise $1 million. In 2010 they raised $1 million, and then in a year they were able to, Series A, they raised $4 million from Index Ventures. And see how the company here, though the net asset is whatever the funding was done, like 1 plus 5 million, you can see. But then the next round they raised $16 million. So then that is, to roughly around $22 million it came to. What you're seeing is, in the white circle is roughly the funds in the business. In the black circle is you are seeing the valuation. If you don't show that kind of jump in the business's potential, the subsequent round of funding will not be easily available. And after a point, investment that is coming in starts to plateau. Okay. So, they raised so like here the multiple, 20x multiple they were looking at. So the person who has invested $1 million, his stake, her stake, those investors' stake is shrinking, but the multiple is going towards 20. See, from 1 to 15. That and all is happening. But then subsequent investor is coming, he has to wait for the next round. The next investor is coming at 22 million, he has to wait for the next round. And the next round investor is also not silly. He is not there to give me an exit. So many times the prior round investors also have to wait to get an exit. Now you must be thinking, why is this guy talking about exit, exit, exit? This is a important aspect that you have to address whenever you try to raise money from any investor, AIF, whether angel or venture, is how will you get them to generate that return on investment. That is the word exit. So will you cause it through subsequent rounds of funding? Because if you do that, then the number of people who will invest in the next round will come down. Nobody wants to see the prior investors exit. Everybody wants to see all the investors on board till the IPO. IPO is the golden exit. Now, one of the notable IPOs is Freshworks. Young engineers under 35 have become crorepati's just by holding on to the employee, the ESOP, the equity in the employees that are getting, of Freshworks, that when it got listed, they were able to exit as crorepati's. So everybody waits until the classical exit, that is IPO. Alternate exit, mergers and acquisitions. So one of the not so nice examples of merger that I'd given you is Urban Clap, which is now Urban Company. Now, in this example itself, you can see that although I mentioned only Series C, but the venture investing happens at Series D also, at E also, at F also. And each time you want to raise a subsequent round at a higher quantum of money, the number of investors keeps increasing. So here, four investors: BlackRock, DST, Temasek, and another investment company had to come. And then the next one, another few, five investors had to come, and that much more you have to spend on satisfying the legal team of each investor, and you have to negotiate with each investor's legal team to some extent. You have to keep them all happy. So nobody will come to you if the market size is very small. Just one village in Ludhiana means no investment from any investor. That village might be full of croropatis, and if you teach their children or any other part of their needs, you might be able to create a business that earns you in lakhs a month, but no investor will come. Your market has to keep expanding. So that is where these jargons are used in the industry to understand the scope of scalability of a business: total available market, serviceable available market, serviceable obtainable market. Okay, so you keep narrowing down. Okay, this is what I will do in the year 2022. Then in the next year I will open myself to a newer market, and all of this has to be in the part of the certain industry, and you have to understand the regulations of that industry. So read through. Okay, the more you serviceable obtainable market, the more you are shrinking your you are focusing razor focusing on whom to serve today, and based on that your entire marketing, communication, advertisements, and promotions, and the way you use the venture capital funds to grow your market, incentivize them, will matter. Now the target addressable market itself needs to keep growing in an economy. Otherwise, these venture capital funds will not go there. In Zimbabwe, you need to get tens of lakhs of their currency to buy bread. You will not find any investment there. Period. In India, after the geo data explosion and smartphone explosion, number of transactions wirelessly or remotely or online has increased a lot. That is an indicator of expansion in the target addressable market. Estimated collections in 2019 itself 600 million. 600 million. A population of America is only 300 something million. So expected growth in per capita income by 2025 is 3 times. Share of internet users. This expectation was without factoring the pandemic. Let me make it clear. IMF has reduced the expectation for all countries to grow by a certain margin. Refer to the latest IMF forecast. And keeping that in mind, the amount of funds that you could raise in 2019 and in 2020, there is a big difference. Now it is more stringent. Share of internet users in rural areas expected in 2019 itself 46%. And this we can see now also, that a lot of rural people are coming online, and you will see a lot of comments in Hindi in YouTube and Facebook. A lot of comments in local languages in Hindi and Facebook. So number of million household income in 2005, it was like 10.1, that is about 4.5%. So this is like annual gross household income greater than 15,000, greater than between 2,000 and 15,000, and less than $2,000 annual income. So what you are selling, if the average order value is going to be $1,000, then who will buy India one? This is the kind of thinking you have to have a granular level inside your pitch deck. You must have these kind of questions that you have already answered, because these things will come up in your fundraising interviews. So if you're not going to be able to offer, you're offering to India one and you want to offer to India two, and you want to offer it for $1,000, then the question is, who will subsidize or offer loans to them? Is it going to be Bajaj Finance? Is it going to be a certain credit card company other than that, or who will be the person who will give the loans? Because in India too, also where the annual household income is between 2,000 and for $15,000, still so many cars are sold. These cars are business cars, like cars for hauling milk and other things. So these transport vehicles are sold there, but then they have an alternate funding system there. So that way also you have to show that even though the average order value is higher side, if you think there are enough wealthy villagers and India is an amazing country. All these politicians whose net worth is in the hundreds of crores register themselves as farmers because there are special incentives to farmers. So there are lots of crorepati farmers in our country. Getting your target segment to be farmers is nothing wrong at all. Question is, can you service those crorepati farmers? And can you reach out to them? And can they trust you to deliver something that matters to them for that $1,000 average order value? Don't fix it on the number 1,000. Point is your average order value and your ideal customer. Okay, where are they? You have to answer this question. And this whole TAM, SAM, SOM, all of that is to understand at what and all geographies can you answer this question. Not just in your one village, model village. No. If you want to address the Karopati villager, farmer, panchayat, sarpanch and other important people in that village, then you must start showing that you can reach to all the villages in Gujarat or something like that. At least half of the villages in Kutch, something like that. Indian startups going global. So Pine Labs, they make payment gateway solutions. So those machines where you should stick your card to do entry of the pin and all to do the point of sale transaction and all. So that is something that Pine Labs pioneered a lot as an alternative provider. And they went out and they did a collaboration with the bank in Malaysia, and so there is these $125 million. So whenever you go in the $50 million or multiples of tens of $1 million, you will see all of the investments are coming from foreign funds. So if a company is not really originating in India, is willing to give you large amounts of money, then keep it in mind they want your company to go abroad also. They are investing in dollars, they expect you to also create dollar transactions for them. Practo. This is another name you have heard, especially now in the situation where doctors themselves don't want too many people in their clinics and are eager to go online to give telemedicine consultancy. This company has had a gala time. But I will just tell you about the journey from 2013. So they opened up in Singapore. They were established incorporated in 2008. They raised 179 million, and from 2013 they went abroad. So the more you want to grow, the more you have to go abroad. But you have to do the whole battle testing and creating the software and the delivery mechanisms and the most of these businesses that are getting large hundreds of millions of dollars of funding are platform businesses. What are platform businesses? There are businesses where there is a provider, there is a consumer, and you become the platform. So ad revenue, the advertiser is giving you the revenue. If in Facebook's case, the people like you and me who are having some spare time, want entertainment, want new interesting you know shares from their community are going there. So there are free users, and then there are people who pay for the free service that is given to the free user. This is a classic platform model. So in Practo is a platform between the doctor and the end customer who wants that consultation. Paytm, another common name. So SoftBank has given 1.4 billion to Paytm, and then PayPay was launched in Japan in joint venture with SoftBank and Yahoo Japan. So then you look at Gookie, incorporated in 2014. It is a health tech business, and they received 13.4 million in Cheetah Mobile and NEA in order to accelerate its growth in USA and China. And then they looked at what other partnerships, particularly with Amazon. Amazon has a channel to promote businesses that are going exclusive with them. They will offer you discounted rates for Amazon pay-per-click ads and visibility in a special section. So that and all is there. So Gookie works with Mitsui and other investors. So see, a lot of international people are coming in, right? Otherwise, how will you know, justify that hundreds of millions of dollars of valuation? So then you have to have the willingness to make your businesses standard operating procedure repeatable in a country where English or Hindi may not be the main language. This is all something that at some level of your growth you might have to address. That is why TAM, SAM, SOM. You're not able to hire somebody who's going to charge you $10,000 or $5,000 a month to carry out your operations in a expensive economy today. Don't bother about that economy today. But at some point you will have to bother. So then you'll have to generate enough profits in India so that you are appealing to businesses or consumers in a different economy. Otherwise, getting larger valuations is going to be hard. So, for an example, how to look at this TAM, SAM, SOM, and how to shrink it down to a sizable bite-sized piece and all. Let's say the total food market in India is 43,000 crores. Okay. So then, are you going to get all of that in your pocket? Highly unlikely, almost impossible. So start looking at what are the subdivisions in the food market. Organized, unorganized, full service. Full service means the restaurants that are internationally reputed. One of the metrics is Michelin stars. Average order value of a Michelin star restaurant, even in India, is starting from 3,000 rupees, depending on the venue. Rarely you will see some items that are lesser. Casual and fine dining. Okay. Then in quick service restaurants, these your McDonald's, Burger King, you know, Domino's. Lot of the processes that Domino's invented in America, they thought of, okay, I want this process to be in a country where Japan or other parts where they may or may not, speak the same language. So how can we break it down to small steps that can be repeatedly used to create the same quality finished product? Very important if you want to go global. And if you don't go global, then the amount of investments that you can raise will be limited. And then you'll have to think that way. So kiosks and carts and bars and all these things are there. Now you have to start thinking where will you serve your customers. So where is the higher growth likely? Where the average order value is more, but number of customers cannot be too little. In a Michelin star restaurant, only film stars and other people who are in that high and posh locality will go. Well, what about the other unserviced people? But in a quick service, even a middle class family might think of spending 500 to 1,000 rupees for a family of three. Maybe not every day, highly unlikely every day, but once a week, twice a week, or once a month, twice a month. So that is why quick services keep coming up. And what will be your niche? From that huge market, start looking at what are the approximate sizes for your market. There are different research companies that will give you this. Okay, and in that, look at whether the market that you're addressing is growing at a high speed or not, at an appropriate rate or not. If your market is growing at 6%, how will you, as a constituent of that market, achieve that growth rate? If the economy of India is at under 3 trillion, 2 point something trillion, and is aspiring to be 5 trillion in the next few years, then you cannot think of your market cap of your company to be 1 trillion. Nah. To get a 1 trillion market cap, you have to be where? America, Amazon, Apple. These are 1 trillion market cap companies. But are they in smaller economies? No. That's what this is telling. So this is an ecosystem that you need to have to piggyback on. Okay. So if your business is dependent on artificial intelligence, then you are dependent on the silicon, on integrated circuits. If not Intel, then some other company like Nvidia. So in the huge graphics card shortage now, automated or autonomous self-driving vehicles of Tesla are getting bottleneck. Other things in this slide I want you to read, and if time permits, I'll come back and explain more. But keep in mind who is your resource providers, ancillaries. If your suppliers don't grow with you, your business will flatline. Angel investor networks. So, some differences between the angel investment and venture capitalists. Okay, angel investors come before venture capitalists, and some of the notable angel investors like Sanjay Mehta Saab, 100x.vc. Remember, this is the name of their website, 100x.vc. A lot of important things you learn from the website. And if you are able to get Sanjay Mehta Saab's backing or funding, then so many other investors in India and abroad will back you, because that is the level at which he vets down businesses. His feedback on why he is not willing to fund with you will also open doors for you. Need not directly generate a new investor, but it will help you to save yourself from losing lots of money going down in a business that is highly unlikely to sustain itself. So there are other angel investors also. Look it up in detail. You will get the PDF of this. So, what is an alternative where the equity dilution is less? Your ownership of the company is not threatened, and it is not a grant that you are at the mercy of the grant giving body. So there is, this crowdfunding. And in India, the public is not to believing on unlisted ventures. In 1990, public was not willing to believe in listed ventures because of Harshad Mehta scam. A lot of trust in the equity markets was lost because a lot of money was lost. People often look at what they can get in the short term, ignoring what is the benefits in the long term. If you are able to convey that you are a long term player, long term promoter, you want to stick with your business for a long term, you start getting people who will back your vision. And one of the early ways to show your resourcefulness is through crowdfunding platform like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Mightypod, Start Engine, Patreon. So I have mentioned who are the kind of people that raise money in these crowdfunding platforms. You need to fit that typical genre, otherwise you will not get approval. Even crowdfunding platforms will vet you, look at your address, verify that you are who you say you are, whether you file taxes and compliances, and whether you are a long-term participant. And in India, crowdfunding has emerged, but only to play on the sympathy of people and to do campaigns for donations. This is easier to do. In India, registering a crowdfunding platform and getting approvals from SEBI and ensuring that the investors' money is not lost is a very hard problem. If you want to do a business in that area is still available. And then you'll have to sit with a lawyer, understand, and address the concerns of SEBI using a mechanism that shows that a certain fundraiser for equity is a long-term, promoter, not a fly-by-night thief or a operator or a Nirav Modi. So that and all is there. Overview of fundraising process. You go to an investor and you email them your pitch deck, and most likely you will not get a response easily. Okay, even Starbucks founder Howard Schultz had to go through 200. He had got rejections from 200 investors in Atlanta before he was funded. So I am giving you this tentative flow chart. It is not a cut and dry. Not necessary at all that you will have to go through the same steps. First step itself is to your tenacity to accept rejection will be tested. Your willingness to create resources in the face of no from hundreds of people will be tested. And people who said no earlier may agree after seeing how you manage a business on your own. Particularly if you want raising money in 2021, you need to have a communication of 6 months, 1 year with that investors, with that firm, and you need to show how your business is growing, and you need to ask for feedback. You may not even receive feedback, you may not even receive criticism, or you might, and then they will see whether you have incorporated that feedback and criticism into your business's operations. Then all these stages happen. So, you connect, they go through your pitch deck, then the due diligence happens after the 6 months of not responding to you, or 1 year. We don't know how many months you might have to patiently keep in communication. Then term sheet valuation and negotiation around what rights they will have, signing the shareholder agreement. Startup is funded, and then you have to do investor relations. So if you take money and you don't communicate at all, then the existing investors will start panicking, and they may not disburse the entire venture fund that they have agreed to give you. And even beyond that, even when they have given you all of their fund, you still need to be in communication, because these are seasoned professionals who have seen lots of adverse situations, and they can save you from making costly mistakes. So investor relation will become an important part of it. Overall running your business, because depending on how well your current investors are, new investors will see the feedback of the current investors, and then they will invest. Okay. If the current investors are not happy with the way you run the business, it will show. The relationship has to be maintained. Sweat equity. So, like I gave you the case of um, the company that got listed, desk. Which desk was it? Fresh Desk. So even if you don't plan on doing your own business, if you take the risk of working for an startup, you can still end up as a crorepati by virtue of sweat equity. So these are some of the legalities under which sweat equity is governed. Look it up. Okay. Then impact of 2020 on valuations. A lot of these are surveys that were done by 100x.vc. The sectors which are getting driven by online and social distancing, naturally they will attract more funding. So if you're going to start a business, you have to start thinking of how much of your business can you operate with online, without needing to have too much in-person connect. And what sectors have VCs funded? So like I earlier mentioned, healthcare, 89%, overwhelmingly healthcare. Then edtech, so many different demographics to serve. 5th standard, 10th standard, 12th standard, people who are not in any standard, yeah, who are graduates looking for UPSC, and so on and so forth. Media, other industries. Timing and priority. What are you going to prioritize? Just cutting cost, or increasing the runway, or limiting the market expansion? So you see, these are all areas where you are, in a sense, holding yourself back. You're not growing, you are just maintaining the operations, so that the existing funds can last till the next round of funding is available at a valuation that suits you. So this survey, they found out that investors are giving the same thing that same directive that I said, that delay the fundraising, because the more you raise money out of desperation, the more equity you have to end up giving for the same amount of money. So that is why delay the fundraising as much as you can. until the economy opens up completely. Common pitfalls when fundraising. Too much tech savvy and not really understood by the common man. Too fixated on how to instead of why. Core technical complexity is a barrier to competitors copying it. But it also stops investors from catching on the prospective returns and merits. You have to balance that. It cannot be too simple that there will be 100 copycats of it. At the same time, the conveniences or the relief or the pain, the need, the desire that is addressed by you or your offering has to be clear to the investors. Reinventing the wheels. So, I don't want to give my secret sauce away. I want to give all of my secrets to myself. If I give outsourcing certain parts of my business to an outsider, then I will have more competitors. So I won't make friends or I won't make partnerships. I'll try to do everything myself. That will slow down the number of prototypes that you can put out and see from the customer's feedback which prototype is getting importance. Doing it all from zero slows down feedback. That is very harmful also. So you are hiring people. At some point, only two-man team will not get importance. You must have senior professionals. At the same time, you need to have youthful people who will put a lot of energy because startups working time completely, you know, unfixed. A lot of overtime is to be given and no money in return. So what kind of people will do that? People who have a lot of experience but are expecting a cozy life will not be able to offer that kind of time and energy to the growth of your business.
Hello,
You need to
sir.
have people who are hungry. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Can you increase your volume?
Uh, okay, I am coming closer. Is it better?
No, sir. Can you still increase?
Okay, I will speak slowly and loudly.
Yes, sir.
Or let me see if this will change things. So, how to select the correct machine here? Settings, switch audio. No. Uh, has it gotten better? Actually, in this WebEx, I don't know how to. It's better, na? Okay then. Okay, okay. Because I didn't select this headset. Anyway, going forward, early stage hires. So if there is too much of disharmony in your business because the people you hired are more experienced and are not, fully doing what your company expects them to do, then your team will not be able to deliver on what the promises you made to your investor, and then you will have a hard time raising the next level of funding. Overfunded or under delivered. So like I said, when you raise that quantum, raise it 40% more, 50% more, whatever is the highest maximum that you can get for that given amount of equity stake, raise that. But don't take that entire money up front and then deliver nothing. That will cause serious harm to you and the entire founding team's reputation and possibly even legal battles. So raise money more, but then take disbursement in small chunks that you are fully able to apply and deliver the promises that you made to the investors. Otherwise, you will be, in a sense of security. Oh, I have 10 CR funding. I don't need to work hard now. Or at least the hunger with which you would have worked if you had taken 1 CR and then, make sure that you deliver whatever promises you made on that first crore will not be there if you have more than that. So, just slightly you must be underfunded or as much as close to the need, you must get that much. So this is like irrelevant solution. This is like the most harmful thing that can happen. Investors' money also funded, your time also invested, and at the end, what is made is not valued. Very, very harmful situation. So this is why you need to have empathy and design thinking that Karamjit sir is emphasizing on. You need to be in sync with that particular target customer of your own, ideal customer of your own. You need to have the journey map properly in place, even before the first round of funding, typically nowadays. At least some elements of your offering and customer need being matched has to be clear for any level of funding. Overspending and casual founders. सो कंपनी में पैसा आ गया है, हम लोग कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. वी कैन अटेंड high celebrity meetings or parties and hire big actresses to promote our brand. And actually, do you really need that? If the benefit is strong enough, even without a big celebrity, your customer should come back to you. Okay. Colgate is rarely sponsored or requires the need of a big celebrity. Basic Colgate also sells so much nowadays. Can you be that kind of recall? Can you be that kind of brand in the minds of your consumer that even without the main celebrities or big stars, you are able to, you know, get your product across, offering across. So the accountability needs to be there on any kind of spending you do in the name of marketing. If you spend too much, see, if you take money and spend it all on advertisement, then you'll not get the remaining chunk of the money from the same investor. So, see, if I as an investor get an option to invest in Facebook share directly, why would I give my money to a company that is going and spending money on buying ads from Facebook only? Am I not better served by parking my money in the shares of Facebook, which is what I am doing, and so many other investors are also doing? So, if you want to buy ads, and expect that just buying ads and placing ads in YouTube videos and Facebook, you know, scrolling system, Facebook website will get to customers. If that is the entire game plan, then it will not, sustain, and you have a hard time raising funding. So, you start having a very demanding customer at the outset, a whale customer, and your ability to service that whale customer in terms of manpower is limited, right? So your all entire team is servicing, in the case of B2B particularly, the whole team is servicing that one big customer. Then how will you think of expansion? So companies are not going to, like AIF, alternate investment funds, are not going to give money to a service provider that is not able to expand the number of people it is giving services to. So the important word is software as a service, not founder as a service, not founding team as a service. Then there is a huge bottleneck. So you need to look at it that way. How much demanding a customer is for incorporating your software into their use, and how much manpower, or what is the level of training of that manpower that is needed to satisfy that huge demanding customer. Keyman company. So this happens when you have extremely efficient founders. They can do everything very fast, very quickly, and with the kind of agility and speed. But when it comes to offering the same roles, tasks to others, they get irritated because they're not able to have the patience to explain. And at some point, you need to have that kind of razor focus on efficiently maximizing your time. But at the same time, you cannot be the only person doing everything. If you're the only person doing everything, then your business is going to be bottlenecked by you. Mismatched investor profile. So earlier on I said that typically your individual assets are not supposed to be liable in the event of the failure of your startup. But that is only if you raise money from standard alternate investment funds. If you raise money from normal HNIs, they will try to make sure that your individual liability is also there. And at the same time, you will not get the necessary smart inputs, relevant inputs to your business. Because in AIF, there are many investors. Some will have technical expertise, some will have marketing expertise, some will have some other expertise. So you'll be able to get more and more feedback in those investor calls. But if you take from few HNIs, few large families, they may not even give you as much feedback because it may be completely outside of their expertise, outside of their experiences. So income generation versus generational wealth. So at the outset, even until 2019, Ritesh Agarwal, the founder of OYO, was taking a bare minimum salary of 40,000 roughly. His net worth is in the hundreds of crores, but he is not withdrawing a lot of cash from his business. So if the founder shows tendency of taking large salaries out of the business and not putting that money in the growth of the business, then that's a red flag. And subsequent rounds of funding may not happen. Even the current investor might not continue to fund you. So that and all is there. Are you going to look at generating income for today's month, this month, next month, or are you going to create enough money that many generations will be able to taken care of thanks to your business today? So if you are trying to go after everything under the sun, so Domino's doesn't sell bhel puri and McDonald's doesn't sell biryani. So you need to know what are the few offerings that I will offer. Few being the keyword. You cannot offer everything under the sun. Even Amazon, which sells almost all kinds of products that the world has to offer, started with just selling books. Focus on one problem domain, properly get the business to offer and satisfy customers in that problem domain, and then you can look at new offerings, new segments, new geographies. Angel investors look for MVP, not world class product. Okay. So expected that there will be vulnerabilities in your offering, so many problems in your offering. But the offering needs to have a clear resonance with somebody who is willing to buy that flawed offering, buy that limited resource software, limited feature software. That few features that you offer needs to ping with the people that you're trying to serve and convert them from people on on an email list to people on a transaction list, people who have transacted with you. If not with money, then with data. Facebook has a lot of people who transact who don't pay money. People who are transacting with data is much higher than people who transact with money. In fact, for an advertiser today, it is hard to put money on Facebook ads because Facebook has made so many stringent conditions. If you are into network marketing, we will not let you run ads. If you are into religious things or trying to brainwash people, we will not let you run your ad. Facebook is protecting the people who are using Facebook for free from people who are trying to spend money to get data of people who are using it. So see, how the world is now. So you need to look at what you are able to attract people who resonate with you. Weak pricing, duplicatable offering, pricing power and branding. People willing to transact, people willing to pay the cost of a laptop today. Earlier in 2014, nobody was willing to pay the cost of a laptop without getting delivery of the laptop. Cash on delivery. Payment will be done online, but after delivery. But at least in the large metro cities now, transactions of higher order are happening on Amazon and Flipkart. And businesses are using the GST registration to do business purchases also. So that is what you have to see. Can you create a brand recognition where your average order value will increase 1 year down the line, 2 year down the line? That much trust people should have on your brand to transact with you. Narrow or no moat, a red ocean. So look at this graph, look at this table, intangible assets, switching cost, network effect, cost advantage, scale, and then see what and all you are ticking out of these five, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5. If it is more than 3, you have a wide moat. Moat is that protection around the castle, which is full of alligators and crocodiles and water, which will stop the infantry or the marauders from coming and robbing the castle. Here, the context is new competitors and robbing your customers. Crowded cap table, capitalization table. See, Operative word keyword is unlisted. So SEBI has put a number restriction on how many people can an unlisted company raise money from. After that Harshad Mehta scam and all these scams that were happening in the early 90s, SEBI decided, okay, equity may not be for everybody. Let the poor villager who is having trouble with managing his family not be in the equity market if he doesn't understand all the things. So if you want to raise money from the average uncle, average auntie, you must disclose so and so. If you don't want to disclose all your business operations for the last 4 years, I will limit the number of investors to 200 for you. That is how SEBI has put 200 as a cap. 200 is the maximum number of investors a unlisted business can have on its board, private limited. Okay. Now, if there are 200 people shouting on top of your head on how to do business, then how will you do your business? Have you ever thought of that? 200 is also a lot number, a huge number. So that is why venture capitalists and angel investors will try to see that the total number of investors is less than 50. That too in the large later stages. Okay, round F, 100 million, $200 million you want to raise. Total number of investors on the cap table should be less than 50 or something in that ballpark. This number is not fixed. Lesser is better. This is some more theory. Read it. Okay. Elevator pitch. Without this simple one line distillation of what you're trying to solve, it will be very hard to fix a meeting, because this is the total amount of time a VC or angel will give to you, because they are getting hundreds of applications in a day. If not, you know, like they don't even have the time or manpower to screen through all of the applications. So one line that catches the attention of the person who is under the employment of the VC, such that your application gets forwarded, or you identify which club that angel investor or VC is going, or which other conference that angel investor or VC is going to speak at, and you find that you are able to spend 1 minute with that angel investor VC face to face, person to person, and you explain your business in that 1 minute. The time it takes for the elevator to go to the top floor. That is the origin of this elevator pitch. So this is typically the kind of aspects you need to cover. Okay, what is a good thing that is offered to the customer by you? Who is the customer? That you need to explain in your in our elevator pitch. And what is the improvement that you're doing that existing businesses are not doing, and in which industry does your business come, and what is the desired outcome. Okay, address all of these areas that your business is impacting positively. Then product versus business. So like I mentioned, this whole multi-sided marketplace approach, you need to know who is more important for you. Are the people who are giving revenue more important, or the people who are giving data more important? Both are more important, true. But if you have time to only improve the experience of one, who will you improve? So go with the Intel approach, TikTok cycle. In one generation, Intel will improve the smallest size of the transistor called, you know, the foundries size, the nanometers. One cycle nanometer is improved, another cycle frequency is improved. So in the same 14 nanometer, if you see in 2014 and today, there is at least a 400-500 megahertz improvement in the clock cycle at a given price point. If not, the number of cores has also increased. So architecture improvement versus nanometer improvement. So once they address architecture, then they address nanometer. You could also do that. First, you address the persons who are giving you the data, make their experience better. Then you address the advertiser's experience of finding out whom to advertise to. These are also some of the approaches. So, when you go to the VC, you have to convey all of this information: TAM, what is your unique selling proposition, and what is the state of your minimum viable product, and all of these things. There's an intention behind asking these questions. These are the some of the intentions that you need to address. Team milestone projection is asked because they want to see how reliable you are, how stable you are. Can you deliver this business for 8 years, 7 years, 10 years, however long it takes? How to secure investors' rights? That is term sheets are there, and later you have to pass the investor board seats to a higher investor, a person with more investment, so on and so forth. Due diligence. There are various kinds of due diligence: business, operational, financial, legal. Not a single rupee is changed hand until all of this is done. So from the get go, document, document, document where you are sourcing something from, whom you are selling to, how much did you spend to do the service the customer. So if the average order value is $1,000, are you spending $1,001 or $1,850 or $1,850, or how are you servicing that customer? So due diligence and all of the numbers you need to meticulously put in a document, because this is all will be asked to you by lawyer and accountant both before giving you money. Term sheet. This topic is beyond the time allotted, so you have to read and read, particularly 100x.vc. From there you start. Some of the areas that you should look at is why need term sheet, shortcomings, key focus. Okay, so term sheet is like a document that is between shareholder agreement and not getting funded. So if the term sheet is proper, shareholder agreement happens smoothly, you get funded. If the term sheet is not able to be materialized, you will not be able to reach to the shareholder agreement. Term sheet is like a less legally binding version of the shareholder agreement, but it is still an agreement, depending on whom you are raising money from. Okay. So term sheet, there will be mentioning all the data on all the parties involved, investor rights, investment data, founder obligations. You can only be the founder of business that you are raising money for. You cannot have a second business or a third business in which you are also a founder or an important key decision maker. Means you need to be fully employed in the business for which you are raising money, so on and so forth. Survivorship, okay, confidentiality. If something happens to you, then who is going to take on the baton of responsibilities? CCPS means compulsorily convertible preference shares. These are instruments which give special rights to the holder of the CCPS on deciding how the company should be operated. Clauses matter. You know, exclusivity clause will be there. When you go to raise money from investor A, they also know that you're talking to investor B, C, D, E, F, dozens of investors you're talking to simultaneously. So the moment the discussion becomes serious and the investor is considering giving you a funding, before telling you how much he will give you, you will have to sign a non-disclosure and exclusivity that I will not go to another fund manager using the investor A's term sheet. I will not try to keep compounding the money I raise for a given fundraise round without actually creating corresponding business value. Everybody wants the next round of funding, but nobody wants the current valuation in the current round of funding to be manipulated in such a way. Shareholders agreement. So this is a more detailed version of the term sheet. Okay, you have to read this through. This comes at a later stage, and without lawyer and accountant on your own payroll, you should not do this only. So learning about shareholder agreement in a webinar or seminar is always going to be insufficient, because what is the nature of your business? What and all agreements you should get into and should not get into? All this is legal and accounting matters. Under which tax treaty with which country can you source a certain product such that when you assemble it in India, you will not have to pay 28% but pay 18% GST? These are all questions some professional has to address you specifically as per the current financial year norms. And these and all details will be incorporated. Shareholder agreement further features, keywords needed to be used to attentively, use attentive business definition. What is the business? What is the scope of the business? So one simple loophole in the shareholder in the agreement between two businesses Microsoft and IBM allowed Microsoft to grow tremendously, and that is Bill Gates reserved the right to sell Microsoft software on non IBM devices. Why would a company like IBM overlook this clause? Because in that time frame, 1980s, early 90s, IBM was the only provider of devices. So IBM thought, how does it matter? I'm the largest player anyway. He has to keep coming back to me, and I'm getting such a good deal already from him. Okay, I can ignore this clause. But that one clause alone allowed Microsoft to keep, offering its software to companies that are not IBM also. So this is where you need to remember. If you address a whale, every agreement with a whale company matters. If the whale makes you exclusive to them, you will not get further funding. If you have multiple whales and other kinds of customers, other sized customers also, then and your number of customers keeps increasing, you will get funding. So all these agreements matter. In your shareholder agreement also some or the other clause will be there which will make sure that you are bound to not give any exclusivity without consulting the owners of the compulsorily convertible preference shares. Any exclusive agreements you get into, you'll have to get in touch with them. Then what about the patents developed? How to transfer? Who decides whom to transfer? All these things will be there. Territory. What is the territory? Subject to which court? Gujarat High Court or Mumbai High Court? In the event of a dispute between you and the people you are raising funds from, anything can happen going forward, right? So management rights. What the votes who will give. Key personal appointment rights. Remember the case of how Steve Jobs was booted out of Apple itself. That and all rights will always be there. Even today, you raise money, they will have the right to change you if you are not performing satisfactorily as a CEO or CFO or whatever position you have. So, term sheet is the general term, industry term. 100x.vc has created a simple agreement for future equity. Simple agreement for future equity means agreeing that the value of the CCPS will be discovered going further. So instead of considering the value of a company to be 3.8 crores and fixing that valuation round at 3.8 crores, what if the subsequent round of funding's appreciation also should be incorporated in the flexibility in the document, such that you are not having too many rigid clauses, but at the same time there is some respect given to the current investors also, some rights given to the current investor also. So an ISAFE is a lot like a shareholder agreement, but there is more flexibility and the further fundraising rounds. Uh, there is leeway given to the cost of the valuation of the company. That is not there in a shareholder agreement. So I would like to keep this slide, which I've already seen from Karanjit sir. This is on design thinking, human-centered approach, and innovation that draws from you, the founder. See, in a lot of cases, founders have to keep wearing the hat of the designer, and you have to use all kinds of empathy and other methods of design thinking. But you also need to understand that there's a whole community of investors out there. So if you design the world's best product, but and you also have a lot of good people, but then your product offering is easily copied by people because it is so simple, then you not have you will not have enough backing from investors. That and all areas also you need to have a look at, that customer's journey should be better, but your company's journey also should survive to serve the customer across different time frames, across different critical conditions. So it is showing 9:43. I have glossed through some slides. If you want me to go further detail in certain slide, you can tell me. I'll go back to that slide. Or further question you have. Go ahead. Who is speaking? Darshan. Okay. Darshki. Okay. Yeah. So see, I have given you that slide. Let me show it. Did you join late? I had covered this. In an unlisted business, do you have 4 years of prior income? No. Most likely you just started your business and you want to raise money. So this is completely subject to the angel investor and their belief on your potential. If the angel investor thinks that your company's potential is $100 million, he will think that can I get a 20 times exit, and from that he will see whether the post money valuation is 5 million. It is completely subjective. One angel might say you're worth 100 million, one might say 50 million. See, at the start only I said there is no fixed price discovery. It's all down to your potential and your ability to show that look, on my own money as a founder, I have gone and done this. I have found this many customers. Now I want to grow. What do you offer me? And in exchange for that much money, I will offer you this much equity. It is all as and when case basis. It doesn't answer your question. It cannot be answered also in a seminar. They are not determined, young man. Are you not listening? They are not determined in a classroom. They are not determined in a negotiation room. They are happening with your conversation with your customers. Why do you think design thinking is so important? Not only should your customer want your offering, other people should not be able to mimic your offering. If you satisfy these two conditions and your customers keep growing, then there is a question of becoming a unicorn. Where is that question and answer tab in this software? People are asking question in chat, is it? Ah, I saw, I saw. Question 1. Going abroad means more funding. You said this. Do you mean that it will be more better to start in foreign than starting in India? No, I didn't say that. No, I clearly told you. Do you have the salary to pay $4,000, $5,000 from the get go, or does the angel investor abroad trust you to deliver value to them? See, if you go abroad, what is your background in that country? What is your achievement in that country? Can you deliver? Hmm? What? Okay. Is it a good idea to collaborate with government despite knowing the fact that we going to have foreign investment? So see, uh, collaborate with government. Uh, there is already a lot of emphasis on GEMS platform and uh, these other invoice discounting platforms that the government has set up. So you must take advantage of any and every help that you get from the government, because the government directly doesn't take equity. So wherever and whatever financial vitamin M you can infuse, favorable agreements for offering your services or offerings, wherever you get, you must get it. So foreign investment doesn't mean that government will say no. Somebody please mute your self if you are asking question, not asking question. Okay. So so the first part, going abroad means more funding, means if you are global, then you get more funding. But if you are not locally validated, getting the attention of international VCs is much harder. Local VC only gets hundreds of proposals for funding. Global VCs get from all over the world. This Sequoia America is getting thousands of proposals for funding. So what is your track record? If you have got funding from Sequoia India, more likely you will get funding from Sequoia America or other venture capitalists, Tiger Global and others. Okay. So anybody has a question, or I'll read the second question. हाँ हाँ, तो मैंने तो आपको बताया ना, अगर आप पब्लिक से पैसा उठाओगे तो आपको 4 साल का आपका बैकग्राउंड दिखाना पड़ता है, कितना आपने ईयर ऑन ईयर ग्रो किया, उसको कहते हैं रेड हेरिंग प्रोस्पेक्टस। वो रेड हेरिंग प्रोस्पेक्टस बनाने के लिए आपको लगेंगे इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकर्स। इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकर आएगा, रेड हेरिंग प्रोस्पेक्टस में कोई ऐसा रिस्क अगर आपका बिजनेस का जो भी है वो क्लियरली डिटरमाइंड होना चाहिए, मतलब बता देना चाहिए आपको सामने से कि ये एरियाज में हमारा बिजनेस डिपेंड करता है कि ये सब होना चाहिए, नहीं होना चाहिए, ऐसा सब है नहीं है। सो रेड हेरिंग प्रोस्पेक्टस के बेसिस पे सेबी अप्रूवल देगा या नहीं देगा कि वेदर यू आर फिट फॉर इन्वेस्टमेंट और नॉट। तो उसके बाद आपका ये सारे जो ब्रोकर्स हैं आपको फ्लोट करेंगे, आपका रफ प्राइस, एस्टिमेटेड प्राइस फ्लोट होगा। वो एस्टिमेटेड प्राइस का रेंज रहेगा कि इतने से इतने में है। फिर आप आईपीओ में अप्लाई करोगे, फिर आईपीओ में अगर ओवर सब्सक्राइब होता है तो फिर भाव ऊपर जाता है, अगर सब्सक्रिप्शन भरा ही नहीं तो फिर आपका आईपीओ रिजेक्ट होता है। जैसे कि ये जो अपवर्क कंपनी है उसका यूएसए में आईपीओ रिजेक्ट हो गया क्योंकि फिल ही नहीं हुआ। उसको चाहिए था 40 बिलियन, और अमेरिकन अथॉरिटीज ने देखा कि उस बिजनेस में 10 बिलियन जितना ही पोटेंशियल है। एंड अपवर्क ने बाद में आईपीओ के लिए ट्राई किया लेकिन अर्ली स्टेज में ही वो रिजेक्ट हो, मतलब सब फुली सब्सक्राइब नहीं हुआ तो फिर वो आगे आईपीओ में नहीं गया। हाँ बोलिए क्या बोल रहे थे। एक 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 बंदा बोलो। अरे अभी तो मैंने बताया यार, तुमने क्या समझा उसका मतलब, तुम बताओ मेरे को, तुमने अभी तक जो सुना उसमें क्या समझा। हाँ तो क्या नहीं समझा, वो तो बता। वो क्वेश्चन छोड़ना, मैंने जो बताया उसमें से क्या समझा आपको, रिपीट करो ना तो मुझे भी पता चलेगा आपने कितना सुना। एनीवे इसका रिकॉर्डिंग आएगा, आप वो रिकॉर्डिंग सुनना, आपको आंसर मिल जाएगा। किसी बेसिस पे आप पूछ रहे हो एज अ इन्वेस्टर और एज अ प्रोमोटर। अगर आप पूछ रहे हो मेरे को आईपीओ किस बेसिस पे लगता है एज ए इन्वेस्टर जो अप्लाई कर रहा है आईपीओ के लिए, उसको लगता है लॉटरी, उसका कोई ठीक ठिकाना नहीं। अगर आप पूछ रहे हो एज ए प्रोमोटर जिसको आईपीओ रेस करना है तो उसके लिए आपका 4 साल का बैकग्राउंड देखने के बाद आपको अप्रूवल मिलता है पैसा उठाने का। उसको लगना नहीं कहते हैं, उसको इधर अप्रूवल मिला या रिजेक्ट हुआ कहते हैं। समझ में, हाँ। हाँ नहीं मैंने तो बताया ना, आपका 5 ईयर में 4 ईयर में आपका जो रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ हुआ है, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी ग्रोथ हुआ है, उसके बेसिस पे होता है। अभी वो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी ग्रोथ करने के लिए आपको ज़्यादा एसेट्स नहीं लगा है तो नहीं लगा है। जैसे ये सारा जो आईटी कंपनीज है उनके पास कहाँ बड़ा बड़ा प्लांट एंड मशीनरी रहता है। बट रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी ग्रोथ के बिना आईपीओ बहुत ही अनलाइकली है, सेबी रिजेक्ट कर देती है। अगर आप कंसिस्टेंटली लॉस कर रहे हो तो रेयरली आईपीओ के लिए अप्रूवल मिलता है। देखो भाई ये सेशन तो अनलिस्टेड बिजनेसेस का है, तुम मेरे को सारा क्वेश्चन आईपीओ का पूछ रहे हो तो मैंने तो तुमको उतना स्लाइड दिखाया नहीं, तो क्वेश्चन तो स्वाभाविक है। मेरे को खाली इतना कहना है कि अगर आप लिस्टेड बिजनेस फंड रेजिंग पे जा रहे हो तो उसमें बहुत सारे मेथड्स हैं वैल्यूएशन के। डिविडेंड डिस्काउंट मॉडल है, फिर जो आप मेरे को एसेट वाला सवाल पूछ रहे हो ना कि कंपनी बंद होगी तो कितना एसेट्स है, तो वो हो गया बुक वैल्यू वाला मॉडल। तो बहुत सारे मॉडल्स हैं और बहुत सारे मॉडल्स को यूज करते हैं साइमल्टेनियसली। बट मैं तुमको बार बार कहाँ ले जा रहा हूँ, तुम्हारा रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ ईयर ऑन ईयर कितना हुआ है उसका पोटेंशियल देखते हैं लोग, कि तुमने अगर एसेट डाला 5 करोड़ का लेकिन तुमने रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ भी किया, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी भी किया, और तुम्हारा कैगर अगर 25% है इन द लास्ट 4 ईयर्स, देन यू आर एन अट्रैक्टिव बिजनेस। तुम समझो बात को, अगर 4 तरह के बिजनेसेस को समझना है पब्लिक को, चार क्या 4,000 है लिस्टेड कंपनीज, तो कॉमन डिनोमिनेटर्स क्या रहते हैं, रेशियोज रहते हैं ना। रिटर्न ऑन इक्विटी, कंपाउंडेड एनुअल ग्रोथ रेट, ठीक है, प्राइस टू बुक वैल्यू, प्राइस टू इक्विटी रेशियो, ये सब कॉमन डिनोमिनेटर्स में बात करना पड़ेगा तुमको। तुम्हारा एसेट कुछ भी हो, उस एसेट को लेके तुमने कितना निचोड़ निकाला है ये कैसे समझ में आएगा? समझ रहे हो ना? उसका आंसर देना पड़ेगा आपको। How one side can decide my idea will get success or not? You said if 100x.vc provides you funding, then automatically other investor companies will provide you funding. Why is it so? See, I did not say automatic. I said likelihood will increase. There is nothing automatic in the investment scenario, in the unlisted investment space. I am saying that Sanjay Mehta sir, who has promoted 100x.vc, has garnered that kind of reputation because of the kind of successes he has had, because of the kind of meticulous investigation in your business he is doing. One site is not deciding your idea. They are deciding whether they will invest their funds. 100x.vc is a venture capital angel investment firm. They are also in the venture space, but mostly they are into the angel investment space. एंजल इन्वेस्टमेंट और वेंचर कैपिटल में क्या फर्क रहता है? एंजल का टिकट साइज कम रहता है, $4,000, 2.5 लाख 5 लाख रुपया पर एंजल रहता है। ऐसे 100 एंजल्स मिलकर 2.5 करोड़ का एवरेज इन्वेस्टमेंट राउंड करते हैं। और वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट लोगों का इन्वेस्टमेंट राउंड मल्टीपल करोड़ में ही रहता है, 5 करोड़ 10 करोड़ 15 करोड़। जब एक राउंड में अगर 4 वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट फर्म मिलकर $100 मिलियन दे रहे हैं, उसका मतलब है उन लोगों ने मिलके रफली समथिंग अराउंड 700-800 करोड़ इन्वेस्ट किया है, ठीक है। तो अभी समझने की बात यह है कि कौन आपको पैसा दे रहा है। अगर आप किसी हाई नेटवर्थ लाला से पैसा लेते हो ट्रेडिशनल, ठीक है, तो हाई नेटवर्थ लाला जी ने आपको पैसा दिया, उस लाला जी का नाम कितने लोगों ने सुना है? वो लाला जी को देख के और कितने लोग आपको इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए कैंडिडेट समझेंगे? सवाल वो पूछना है आपको, ठीक है। व्हाट इज द क्रेडिबिलिटी ऑफ द इन्वेस्टर्स दैट आर बैकिंग यू एंड आर दे मेकिंग योर बिजनेस ग्रो by giving inputs, not running your business. Nobody will run your business for you, ठीक है। तो third question is, you said online business is more successful, but there are some business which cannot be done online, like cyber security solution providing company. Therefore, can you elaborate what you want to convey by your line? See, online business is more successful. It is in the context of lockdowns that we have seen last year, and in the context of limited personal to person connection. Even now, the crowd that you used to see in shopping malls, you don't see. It is less. It is there, but it is less. Particularly in peak season like Diwali, there will be crowd. But otherwise, the average crowd, what about that? दिवाली कितना महीना है? एक ही तो महीना है साल में। वैसे तो सिलेक्ट फेस्टिवल्स के बीच में बाकी 10-15 दिन शॉप ओनर्स क्या करेंगे? So, by coming online, you are opening yourself to servicing customer in a different city. That is the whole question. How wide can your company reach out to, and at what cost? That is the whole point. Now, in your particular case of cyber security solution providing, see, if you are offering cyber security solution, are the antivirus companies like McAfee and Norton not doing that? So, are you going to a shop nowadays to install a antivirus in your laptop? So, not really. Cyber security solution is also multi-tiered question. If you want to secure servers, ऑनलाइन होता है सारा। Amazon सर्वर्स ऑनलाइन ही सिक्योर होता है। Amazon का कस्टमर बैठा है दुनिया में कहीं पे भी, इंजीनियर बैठा है उसका इंडिया का ऑफिस में, ऑल द सिक्योरिटाइजेशन बोलो, सिक्योरिटाइजेशन गलत वर्ड है, ऑल द सिक्योरिटी सोल्यूशन प्रोवाइडिंग बोलो, वो सब कहीं से भी होता है। इट इज ऑल रिमोट नाउ। So which cybersecurity solution providing you are doing that requires on-site? That you have to answer. Some aspect of cybersecurity is on-site also. Some firewall and some particular things you need to do inside the data center. But then, if your business can only do that much, you will not get funding much. Any other questions? So see, पहला बात तो मैं बताता हूँ आपको. Government of India is getting lot of arms and ammunition from abroad. What is Dassault Systems doing with Ambani's? It is giving them fighter jets. Can you be that intermediary that will help Government of India to get the latest technology from abroad? Then you will obviously get to enjoy working with a foreign collaborator and working with Government of India. If your mindset and belief is so clear that I will not be able to work with foreign company under Government of India, it will become real. So see, if you are a Bhabha Atomic Research Center scientist, then you cannot work with foreign companies. Similarly, if you are an ISRO scientist, then you cannot work with foreign companies. But as a scientist in these businesses, you cannot even work in your own company. Are you understanding what I am asking you? Question is, how do you position your business? Are you the intermediary that GOI will use to facilitate bringing advanced foreign technology in India? Yeah, yeah, I do that. Yes. Mm, mm. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Yeah, I have sent it. So you should be receiving it. Okay. Bye. Take care.
अभी आज का तुम्हारा 22 का कंसिस्टेंसी बेटर, 22 का कंसिस्टेंसी बेटर, बाईस में नीचे तुम्हारा दो नेक्स्ट सेक्शन उठाने
कल 1 घंटे में
के
सब सुबह
फिर
नहीं 1 घंटा है ना शाम के समय
8 से 9
हाँ 8 से 9
इसका अप्रूव कर लो। अब तुम्हारा जो ये है ना